We're going to talk about this evening the cowardice of Israel. What does it mean when I talk about the cowardice of Israel? Well, it means the importance of having courage. Because you see what happens through Israel when you have a cowardice as a result. And Christians are commanded to be brave. Be strong and of good courage and do not be afraid. There's a song. I love this song. It's be strong and courageous and do not be afraid. The Lord is with you each and every day. And I think that is, I almost started singing it. I love that song so much. But I think that's so important to realize the importance of courageousness. So let's dive in to the lesson and discuss this. Israel at this time was a nation of whiners. There is no better description of Israel at the time of Moses than whiners. They whined all the time. Anytime anything did not go their way, they complained every time. This, however, would probably be their biggest failure. They had traveled all the way to the edge of the land just to want to go back in the end. Numbers 14, verses 1 through 10. And there are 3 points that I think we can draw from this. Having courage in the work of the Lord can be hard. Not having courage in the work of the Lord has consequences. And having courage in the work of the Lord always pays off. So let's begin the discussion. Having courage in the work of the Lord can be hard. Having courage is not always easy. Sometimes it's so difficult. And at the time of the apostles, it cost them their lives. Being courageous for the word of the Lord. Living the life of a Christian was never said to be easy, and there are times where it is just so much easier physically to give up. But what does 1 John 3:13 says? Marvel not, my brethren, if the world hates you. You're telling the world that they're in sin, and you're surprised that they don't like that? You're shining a light. You're that city on top of a hill. When people see a city that's doing well and they're not doing well, you know what they are? They're jealous. And you know, they try, and they usually take the methodology of fixing their situation by the idea of a schoolyard bully. They tear other people down to make themselves feel better. 2 Corinthians 11, 23 and 27. Are they ministers of Christ? I speak as a fool. I am more. In labors more abundant, in stripes above measure, in prisons more frequent, in deaths oft. Of the Jews 5 times received I 40 stripes, save one. Thrice was I beaten with rods. Once was I stoned. Thrice I suffered shipwreck. A night and a day I had been in the deep. In journeyings often, in perils of waters, in perils of robbers, in perils by my own countrymen, in perils by the heathen, in perils in the city, in perils in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils among false brethren, in weariness and painfulness, in watchings often, in hunger and thirst, in fastings often, in cold and nakedness. You see, the Bible is very clear. The Bible didn't try to trick us. God didn't try to deceive us. As Jeremiah said in Jeremiah 20, verse 7, God didn't try to trick us. He told us exactly what it was going to be like. He told us all who follow Christ will suffer. And I can tell you in this way, today, the suffering that we have to face is not as bad as the suffering of the apostles. Because oftentimes, we don't even know what the word persecution means. We think, I can't, if I say something in public, people are going to make fun of me. And we say that's persecution. But if you put yourself in the shoes of the apostles, who James chapter 1 verse 2 said, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience, but let patience have their perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire. The people he was speaking that to were not people who just got made fun of. If they saw what we complain about as persecution, they would laugh. They were hung on crosses. They were beheaded. They were stoned. They were burned at the stake. They were wrapped in kerosene and used to light the Colosseum. That was persecution. So having courage can be hard, and having courage can have consequences. But not having courage has worse consequences. There are consequences for losing courage. And let's turn to Numbers 14, verses 1 through 10. Our text. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, and the whole congregation said unto them, Would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God we had died in the wilderness? And wherefore hath the Lord brought us unto this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be a prey? Were it not better for us to return into Egypt? And they said one to another, Let us make a captain, and let us return into Egypt. Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel. And Joshua the son of Nun, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, which were of them that searched the land, rent their clothes, and they spake unto all the company of the children of Israel, saying, The land which we passed through to search it, it is an exceeding good land. If the Lord delight in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it us, a land which floweth with milk and honey. Only rebel ye not against the Lord. Neither fear ye the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their defense is departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Fear them not. But all the congregation bade stone them with stones. And the glory of the Lord appeared in the tabernacle of the congregation before all the children of Israel. And I can tell you that was not a good appearance of the glory of the Lord. Israel lost courage, and because of their lapse, that entire generation would die in the wilderness. You know, we have a funny idea nowadays. We've always had this funny idea. People think that the different way you die makes a difference. As if you're any more dead if you die by the sword or by a gun or by whatever, you're any more dead than you would be otherwise. If you die of hunger in the wilderness, or if you die because of old age in the wilderness, you just died and wasted your life. And if you had died fighting for your people, fighting for the land, fighting for God, is that such a bad thing? But they lost their courage. They were scared of the giants that God would have helped them defeat. For it had been better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than after they have known it to turn from the holy commandment delivered unto them. 2 Peter 2, verse 21. In Christianity, this also applies. It is better to die courageously and enter heaven than to live as a coward and be condemned to hell. I would much rather have the consequence of being courageous. Because having courage in the Lord always pays off. There is never a time that being courageous for God will leave you lacking. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. And this can't help but remind me of the book of 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy chapter 4. When Paul reached the end of his life, 2 Timothy chapter 4, after he gives Timothy the charge to preach the word. For I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Finally, there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to me on that day. And not to me only, but also to all who have loved his appearing. When we die faithfully in the Lord, Paul, according to tradition, had his head chopped off. According to tradition, Peter was crucified upside down. According to tradition, some of the apostles were filleted alive. Their skin was cut off of their bodies. John was boiled alive. And he survived it. And then he was exiled unto Patmos. Be thou faithful unto death. There will be tribulation. There will be trials. There will be times where you just think in your head, I can't make it. But if we prepare for that day like Jeremiah did. In Jeremiah chapter 20, verses 7 through 9. Jeremiah chapter 20. The theme of our study of Jeremiah. O Lord, thou hast deceived me, and I was deceived. Thou art stronger than I, and hast prevailed. I am in derision daily. Everyone mocketh me. For since I spake, I cried out. I cried violence and spoil, because the word of the Lord was made a reproach unto me, and a derision daily. Then I said, I will not make mention of him, nor speak any more in his name. Now, if that verse had stopped there, wouldn't that be so sad? But Jeremiah had more to say. But his word was in mine heart, like a burning fire shut up in my bones. And I was weary with forbearing, and I could not stay. The word of God, when it's in his heart in such a way, he could not stop preaching. He couldn't stop. When we are courageous, we will be rewarded. Even if we die, we have heaven to look forward to. We serve a great God, and when he promises something, we can be assured that he will deliver. All we have to do is our part. Do your part. Be courageous. In conclusion, I know you're not supposed to say that as a preacher, but God repeatedly commands us to be courageous. It is repeated. Deuteronomy 31:6, Joshua 1:6, Psalm 31:24, and that's not an exhaustive list. Even though it isn't always easy, we can do it. We have an instructor at preaching school, and I know everybody who knows him, which will be my mom and Rachel. He would always say, and he does always say, you can do it. And you know what? He was so right. You can do it. You have the ability to be saved. All you have to do is do what God said do. Have courage and follow him. Be baptized into Christ. We must remember that this isn't something we can afford to lose. There are consequences if we do not have courage, but a great reward awaits for those who are courageous in the work of the Lord. I want my reward. I want to be courageous in God's work. And I want to be courageous in spreading the gospel of Christ. Tonight you have an opportunity. You have a choice to make. The way of life or the way of death. The choice is yours. I can't make it for you. If I could, I would. And I would choose life for you. But I can't make that decision. Only you can. Choose life. If you need to be baptized into Christ, now is the time to do that. If you just need to repent of sin in your life or you need prayers of strength, we will do that for you right now. Whatever it is you need, please come while we stand and while we sing.